Hello, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie.
And we're doing something a little bit different this morning on Something's Off. We're going to give you a little intro and then go into our video, which we were told was a good thing to do. So
Thank
do
you.
that.
Thank you for telling us that.
Thank you for telling us that. And thank you to Bob over at Defense Diaries for mentioning that as well. Because we're still learning this YouTube thing, but we're getting there. So today we're going to be talking about yesterday in court, the Kouri Richins trial, which was a little explosive and unexpected as far as I'm concerned. And also, we're going to briefly go through the Kelsey Fitzsimmons hearing as well yesterday, which was a big deal. It's going to be a little bit shorter episode because after we're done here, Rebecca is immediately going over to Ani Deb. She's going to be
allegedly. I still haven't heard from him with my studio link and stuff. So
he'll send it to you, I promise.
You promise?
All right. So we'll be back on the other side with today's updates.
Let it fly. So did you also get your link from Jimmy like way later than you thought you were going to?
No, I got it that morning. He was actually really communicative with me. He was like, so it's probably going to be closer to like, 12:45. And I was like, I'll be there at 12:45. He was like, right on.
I've gotten squat. No, nothing. I texted him yesterday and everything. I love him though, so I'm sure I'll forgive him.
He will. He's probably not even up yet.
Amy, this is Kevin's Emmy. I am doing the Stolen Valor thing. This is my Communicator Award, my iHeartRadio Award reel, my I'm so damn proud of you trophy.
Where's your bobblehead? Bobblehead Becky.
My bobblehead is right here. Got my bobblehead. I've got my Lego Rebecca. Have you ever seen my Lego Rebecca?
I have not seen your Lego Rebecca.
Lego Rebecca. My son gave this to me.
Really cute. Yeah, is that Briscoe?
I think so. I've got my Barbies. I've got my Light Bright. Got all my toys back here because I didn't have any toys when I was growing up. So Kevin gives me toys sometimes.
Oh, that's so sad. I love that picture that you posted of Briscoe the other day, just staring at the wall.
It's so funny. I was reading about Bernedoodles. I'm in the Bernedoodles subreddit. People post articles in there and stuff. And it's like somebody was asking like if they should get one for their family. And those of us who have them, it's like literally, he's the best dog I've ever had. He's quirky like every dog, but he's just a dog,
Yep.
And it's like they're smart and easy to train. I'm like, easy to train, yes. Smart.
No.
I think super smart dogs are actually harder to train, in my opinion.
They are. And I will say, for those of you who know anything about bulldogs of any kind, meaning
I used to have an English bulldog.
Yep. French bulldogs, English bulldogs, any kind of bulldogs, they are stubborn as fuck. But everyone always said they were really
easy going.
Yeah. Everyone always said they were really difficult to train. I'm like, I've never had any issues training my French bull. I've had 2 French bulldogs, but I grew up next door to a golden retriever breeder. And so I learned to train dogs from them. And I grew up with golden retrievers and I'm still obsessed with, and I would love to also have a golden retriever. And Ruby loves other dogs. And so we always are like, we should get a puppy. And I'm like, oh God, no, we shouldn't do that.
It's so much work.
It's not just that, it's traveling. Like we usually take Ruby with us when we like wherever we can, and having to take 2 dogs with us or having to get, someone to stay with the dogs, 2 dogs it's a lot.
It is. And absolutely. Like, that's what we deal with. We're like, we have to do this. We're going away in 2 weeks and we have this like split, thing where like our dog sitter is taking them to her house for a few days and our daughter's picking them up. And it's, it's like, if something happens to one of them, I'm not going to sure where they're going to be. It's like, it's a whole thing. And it's like being a parent of a baby. It really is.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to find this so I can show everybody what you're talking about here.
They're toddlers.
Here we go. Let me share this real quick. Share screen.
I know, it's like there's so many steps to sharing it.
Why are there so many steps? Oh my God. All I'm trying to do is share.
You got it. And then you have to add it to the stage.
There he is.
Just maybe he's like, can somebody turn this fireplace on? I would like to get
he was looking slightly above the fireplace at the mantle. And he sat there for like legit like 10 minutes just stare. And he never does it usually, but I'm like, what's is it a ghost? I don't know what's going on.
Well, that's the
Anyway,
thing. I mean, you never know what they can see, or because their noses are so strong, what they actually smell. You don't know. There might be a ghost.
correct. There might be a
So,
ghost.
yeah,
All
maybe
right.
he's wicked smart.
Wicked smell.
I also wanted to say, I don't know if
No.
Liz I don't know I don't know if Liz is in the chat this morning. I'm not seeing her name, but she's made us a bunch of little graphics that I will need to figure out how to use. I've uploaded them into our StreamYard, but because we have a black backdrop, they're not showing up properly. So
Cool.
once we get that worked out, we'll put that on there because they're
Can I
funny.
show you
They're like,
one last thing?
yeah, of course.
For Christmas last year, Kevin got me a viewfinder, and
I
the
love
thing
Viewfinder.
is all pictures of us. It's all
Yeah,
pictures
it's
of us in the
amazing.
thingy. It's so cute.
I love it. I love it. I love it. We should get one of those.
I got
I wonder
toys.
if we could put it up to a camera to be able to see it.
And all my Lego cars. Every time I talk to a bro in the podcasting industry, they're always so impressed with my Lego collection. I have all my Legos. Sorry. I have to
Speaking of
broadcast from
Briscoe.
up here today because we're having internet issues downstairs. And so it's not going to be as peaceful as it is in my studio.
Okay.
And he'll stop in a sec. He always does.
It's
I
okay.
can mute.
Did you get a chance to watch any of the hearing yesterday or the trial?
I did, and I had to cut out at the right before apparently something happened that would have changed my mind about everything according to the internet. There was like a sense that like pictures on a phone came from one person, but they actually turns out that's not true. Like that sort of happened in the hearing. So I
Yeah,
hear that sort of changed everything. I was not surprised that they
I
didn't
don't think
put on a
it changed
defense,
everything,
but yeah.
yeah, I don't think it changed everything. I do think that I think it actually created more reasonable doubt, in my opinion. But we'll go into that in just a second. They started the day off with more procedural stuff. This is what I found interesting, and this could have changed a lot of this. I think this really would have affected the jury had they let this information in. So the defense wanted to call a witness named with the last name Norris. And the reason they wanted to call Norris is because Norris, a few months ago, called in to the investigators and said, I have information that Eric was asking for fentanyl. Now, the backstory of that is what got interesting because Norris, he apparently had come forward to and told the defense, the lawyers, the attorneys about this, and they were like, you need to call it in, right? So the inference, I think, from the state was that the defense had set this up. This guy was like not a credible witness, and they found somebody to like do their dirty work for them. That's
He'd been walked the dogged.
something like that. But then I'm like, how do you convince somebody to do that? That's a pretty big deal, right? At the end, I
It
feel like it
happens.
is.
It
Yeah,
happens
no,
all the
I
time.
know it happens. I know it happens. At the end of the day, the police thought that his story was stupid and they didn't further investigate it. They didn't think they could like verify it, and they
Right.
thought that he was not credible. But by asking, so for asking for this witness to come in, which the judge had partially ruled on this previously, in I guess it was a motion in limine. I'm not really sure, because I'm not a lawyer. The judge had already ruled on it, and he was pretty firm, like, I'm not letting this in. And then he took a break, and as
I saw
Judge
this whole
Daddy
part.
does,
It was great.
he goes and he thinks about it, and he goes, well, I got to make sure this is fair for everybody. And he comes back and he says, okay, here's the deal. I will let you bring Norris in.
I know. Bring
Is it-
Norris up to the cops in questions related to the
Yes.
investigation. She didn't want to bring Norris
Yes.
in. She wanted to ask the cops about
No,
his
I don't mean,
call.
I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
didn't mean as a witness. I
Yeah.
meant bring Norris. She wanted to ask O'Driscoll, the lead investigator, about Norris and why they didn't follow this lead and investigate it fully.
Right.
And that was it. She even laid out all of her questions that she would ask, everything. And then he said, but in order for me to be able to do that, I would also have to allow the prosecution to have a rebuttal to that, which would be their rebuttal would be that they want to bring in the jailhouse recordings between Nick Bonsavage, who was Carmen's ex-boyfriend, Carmen, the drug dealer. And in that recording, the damaging thing that Nick Bonsavage said is Carmen just made a lot of money selling street drugs, illicit street drugs, on the day that Eric died.
Right.
So basically what that would have done is...
Didn't he use the word fentanyl too in that call? At least we heard that he did in the courtroom.
We heard that he did, but we also heard that they changed the word they changed that to illicit street drugs.
Okay.
And I don't understand why.
It's recorded. Why would they change it?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know. There must have been something to do with the court ruling and what the jury could hear and all that stuff. So the issue is that the defense wants to bring in Norris, and Norris is going to say Eric asked for fentanyl. And then the prosecution would be able to rebut that by bringing in the testimony or the jailhouse call from Nick Bonsavage saying Carmen just made a bunch of money to buy a PlayStation controller, I think, because she just sold a bunch of, we can say fentanyl because it never made it in. At the end of the day, the defense chose not to damage their case by allowing that testimony in. And then we moved into, oh my gosh, I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. I got to sneeze.
Can I just add something that while you're sneezing that I thought was really interesting? So a lot of this, and this is what the judge looked at, is about the Utah of hearsay.
Yes.
And basically, hearsay is when, very generally speaking, like a witness, you can't ask a witness about something that somebody else said, right? Like that's the general idea of it. Like you can ask a witness about what they experienced and how it made them feel, react, etc. So these are what is not excluded under the rule of hearsay. And this is what he talked about. Present sense impression. So this is a statement describing an event or condition made while somebody like received some information. Excited utterance. Obviously, this is somebody that is under stress and maybe being held up by a gun or, having some sort of situation that's dramatic and like yelling something that's considered a exception. The then existing and mental, emotional, physical condition, recorded recollection, records of a regularly conducted activity, absences, all these, the bottom line is there's all these like exception rules. And his take, and this is why I love this judge so much, and I learned a little bit about him that made me love him even more. He's so thoughtful because he's like, let me consider. He said no. And then he's like, wait, give me 5 minutes. And I was like, does he have to poop again? Because he did that the other day.
maybe what he does is he goes and he poops. And while he's pooping, he has big thoughts.
Yes. And he came back and he's like, I looked up the law, the rules, and essentially I think I can let this in, but only, and this is, I'm going to leave it up to you guys.
Yep.
This can come in if this comes in. And then they were like, let's confer.
Yeah. For
as one would, I think. Yes.
Yeah. I think that's great. I think that, again, the judge and the prosecution are letting the defense put on whatever case, they need to put on, or they're rebutting their case however they need to do it. There have been some arguments. There have been some disingenuous things on both sides, and we're going to get into one of those disingenuous things in just a moment. But I felt like that was a really great moment and I wish that this judge could be a mentor to Auntie Bev, because he said something yesterday, and I texted you about this. Let me pull up the text. Oh wait, I don't want to do that because it'll.
Want to hear a little bit about him while you're looking for it?
Yes.
He's a liberal arts dude. He went to Bowdoin College in Maine.
Oh.
He hold on. I got this. Hold on. I took some screenshots yesterday of his bio. Okay, liberal arts card, went to Bowdoin College. He worked in private practice at a Salt Lake City-based firm. He was raised in Connecticut, and he majored in biology and sociology. Wow. And he worked as an AmeriCorps volunteer. And once he moved to Utah, he discovered skiing in Utah and told his mom and said, it'll be a while before I come home. So apparently he's also, I saw online that he's also part of he's like a volunteer ski rescue person. So he's a superhero.
Amy
said he was from near New Jersey yesterday.
Near New Jersey. I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Connecticut. Yeah. He wasn't lying. New Jersey. He's not a liar. He's an honest man.
And yesterday I texted you and I said, Judge Daddy just said, without the metadata, the picture means nothing.
Love that.
And I thought, I don't think that Bev got that memo.
Nope. Screenshots of text were fine in that courtroom.
Didn't get the memo about the metadata, apparently. So speaking of metadata, the next big thing, so they went back into testimony, cross-examination of O'Driscoll, who was the lead investigator on the case. Although it was established yesterday that he was the lead investigator among many, many, many investigators, including the FBI, the DEA, forensic accounting, the DA's office. A bunch of people were involved in this case. And
a private investigator who basically did all the work.
A private investigator who did all the work. Yes. Hands up to private investigators. They do amazing work. I thought that guy, I didn't like the guy's attitude. I didn't like his demeanor. He was just,
I watched it again. I went back. I actually liked him. Sorry.
well, that's
I liked
fine.
him.
I just didn't like him. I thought that he came in and I don't know. He rubbed me the wrong way, and that's totally fine. A lot of people loved him. And a lot of people thought he was great. I thought he did really diligent work. I thought he was good at what he did. But anyway, let's talk about the gifts.
Yes.
Gifts.
Can you please explain the situation to me?
Yes, I can. In opening statements, the prosecution made it seem as if Kouri Richins, on the morning of Eric's death. So Eric passed away in the middle of the night on the 4th of March.
Like she went in at like 3 a.m. and he had died, right? That's what she says.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the prosecution made it sound like, and this is where I was like, oh, she's done. Like that's it. She's done. If this really exists and this is what she did, it's over for her. They basically were telling the jury in opening statements that Kouri at between 8:30 and then eventually like 10 something in the morning of the morning that Eric died, while the family was there, while police officers were there, while everybody was at the house dealing with the death of her husband, that she sent out these very I don't know what word to use. They were really shitty gifts to her friends.
They were tacky.
Tacky. One of them was Kevin Spacey, being like lies or whatever from House of Cards. One of them was a picture of Trump. One of them was the woman Dumb and Dumber, where they're wiping their tears with dollar bills, and basically being like, I'm rich, So they were basically trying to infer to the jury that she was telling her friends the morning that her husband died that she was rich and that she was crying herself all the way to the bank, basically. So everyone who heard that, I remember hearing it and being like, oh, she's in a lot of trouble if that's the case. And I remember the day of opening arguments, everybody online was like, she's toast. I can't believe she would do this. I can't believe she sent these gifts. So, excuse me, they haven't really been brought up a lot until yesterday. They were brought up when the forensic tech guy, the digital forensics guy, was on. And so a lot of hay has been made about these gifts. And yesterday, during cross-examination of O'Driscoll, Nester, basically, they went through the testimony in brief of what the tech guy said. Kouri accessed those gifts on the morning that Eric died. She did not send them. And that was established through the digital forensics guy.
But she could have sent them or received them, from what I understand.
She could have sent them or received them. Or the other option is, when you're sending a text message and you pull up on your iPhone, you click on images to send a GIF.
Yes.
And you know how when you're doing
Giphy keyboard, yeah.
Yeah, the Giphy keyboard. So you put in, like, you're searching for a GIF, so you put in crying. That GIF would have popped up on her phone if she put in crying.
Were there other gifts she accessed that we didn't see?
So we're gonna that I don't know, but I do know that there were other pictures that she accessed that she didn't send. And here's where the defense was trying to be also, I think, disingenuous. Everyone's trying to muddy the water over these gifts, right? Because the prosecution made a pretty big claim in their opening statement that they never proved. And so now the defense is asking O'Driscoll, hey, did she also open up a photo of the Midway house? And he said yes. And so basically what the defense was trying to say was, is it possible, they didn't ask this question, but they were inferring, is it possible that Kouri was looking through her text messages from Eric, and that's why these things were accessed on her phone? Because he had sent the picture that was sent of that Midway house was sent from Eric.
Mm-hmm.
So they were trying to suggest that Kouri was just scrolling through her phone, possibly getting in touch with other people to tell them what was going on with Eric. And she was also looking through her text messages with Eric.
So hit pause for a second on that. So
yeah.
I looked at the transcript of the testimony from Kotro sorry,
Yeah.
say it again.
Yeah, that guy.
Kotro Demos. He was the digital guy. He said that the gifts were definitely sent or received in a text. So he knows that. So there wasn't a search, that's according to him. But if you're saying if she was scrolling through texts from Eric that morning, she may have accessed those gifts, because they said that she took her phone and then turned it sideways, landscape portrait, so she could see it better. So she could have been just sort of looking back through the stuff he sent her.
Yes.
Or she could have been looking through her own stuff. But was there any text where she sent a GIF to somebody? Like, were they able to say, here are her outgoing texts and who they were to?
I have no.
Doesn't that seem like an important missing piece?
It does, but there was also, she also wiped her phone, and she did a really good job, and they weren't able to access a lot of things. They could only see this kind of stuff. So
when
the
did she wipe her phone?
I have no idea, but it happened, I would assume, before she was arrested, obviously. So I think that it was like making a lot out of nothing. I don't know how the defense is going to handle that part of it in their closing arguments, and I don't know how the prosecution is going to handle it in their closing arguments. But the issue is that both sides have been trying to sway the jury with really disingenuous information. And that, that was on the heels of having this argument about Norris and Nick Savage. So, and the thing is, they should be trying, like, the defense should be trying to get in everything that they possibly can. And that's the point. They need to defend their client. I want to make something clear for the record. And I feel like I've made it clear, but I'm going to say
for what record? For our record?
My record. This record.
For your permanent record?
Hey, I want to make something clear for the record. Okay. Let's get this on the record. A lot of people come at me and they say, why do you give Kouri so much leeway or so much grace? And I am not. I think Kouri is a liar. I think she's a messy human being. I think she was money obsessed for good reason, because of the way she grew up. I think that she did a lot of really stupid things to try to protect her own neck in this situation. I don't fully believe, I don't know whether she is guilty or not. I am only focused on
way? In your inner heart, do you lean one way? I mean, I lean one way in my inner heart. Do you lean one way in your inner
heart? No, because honestly, I don't. I'm stuck right in the middle, and that's the problem. What my concern is, and it has always been, is did the prosecution, the DA's office, the state prove to me that she killed her husband? And I will say they have not. At this point in time, we are at the end of the case. What happened yesterday was, after all of this, after all this conversation about Norris and Nick Savage and blah, 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 both sides rested, and it is now going to go to the jury on Monday. At this point in time, if I am on that jury, it is a not guilty for me.
If you are on that jury, yes.
If I am on that jury, they did not prove the case to me.
Right. I don't think they did a great job proving the case. I think that they have a lot of incredible circumstantial evidence, really bad facts that make her look really bad. And then what they don't have doesn't make her look worse, in my opinion. Like, they said there's no fentanyl in the house. Why would there be? She gave it to him. Like, there's a million things that are.
Well, there has to be some traces of fentanyl in the house, because.
Did they do a trace evidence search for fentanyl, or did they just look for fentanyl?
There was white powder. There was powder of some sort on the tape. They didn't even test it.
But for me, the absence of fentanyl in the house doesn't mean she didn't give him fentanyl. It just doesn't.
Oh.
It doesn't.
Let me make one more point.
Sure.
Carmen, she was buying, supposedly, allegedly, she was buying 15 to 30 pills 4 times.
Right.
Where are all those pills? She didn't give him all those pills.
They found a baggie of pills in the pantry?
Yeah, but it wasn't fentanyl.
Right. It wasn't fentanyl, but it was, I mean, I wonder, first of all, I wonder if they tested the pills that they found. I wonder if they tested the oxy pills, or if they just looked at the markings. This is the issue with me, with this case. The state did not bring in the kind of technical evidence because they don't have it, because they didn't do it, because they're not good at doing murders in this jurisdiction. So, but then the defense did not do a good enough job poking holes in what they didn't bring in. So we are seasoned, true crime people. I've written 4 books about true crime. I've read a ton of trial transcripts. I've reported on true crime. You do a podcast about true crime, like looking at trials and looking how prosecutors and defense attorneys and how trials usually go is like, there's things that happen. And a lot of pieces of trials are very boring. And some of this trial was very boring, but like the boring parts serve a purpose, which is to build the foundation for the technical evidence. So the prosecution can be like, this is what happened. And this is how we know why. And the defense then brings in their experts. And sometimes that stuff is boring. And it's like, this is how we know this didn't happen, or this is how we think this alternate thing happened. So we just didn't get any of that in a substantive way, in my opinion, in this trial. There was like a little bit of stuff with that Coach Redemos guy. There's a little bit of medical examiner stuff, but there wasn't like somebody talking about fentanyl.
Right.
How is it usually like how in Utah, in this part of Utah, they've had other fentanyl overdoses. What does that chain of fentanyl look like here? Like how could this have happened? Like there's just nothing. And so the story, for lack of a better way of saying it, I'm looking forward to seeing their closings on Monday, but they didn't tell a story that I can hang on to in either direction. And granted, yes, that means reasonable doubt. Does it mean that I think Kouri definitely didn't do it? Absolutely not. I have my, I think the circumstantial evidence for her makes her look really bad, but I don't know.
But if you're on the jury,
if I'm the jury, I'm a not guilty at this point, and at least some of the charges. But you know, I'm not. And also the jurors don't watch 10 million trials and they don't know what they're supposed to see that they didn't see.
Right. Can we talk just for a moment about the extra charge of attempted murder? They're saying the attempted murder stems from that Valentine's Day sandwich when he got sick.
Oh my God. So the thing that came out yesterday, which really, see, a lot of things like stick out to me, but I'm like, the fact that it's not like a headline or people aren't making a big deal of it. So he had EpiPens.
Yes. They weren't, as far as I understand it, they weren't his EpiPen.
But it
wasn't his.
I thought he did. I thought he had, but they said he had like seasonal allergies or something. And it was like, EpiPens aren't for that. So I was confused about the EpiPen. So they weren't prescribed to him? I
don't know.
So if he had EpiPens.
Let me check. Let me look this up really quick, because I heard that they were not his EpiPens.
Okay. The reason it stuck out to me when I heard EpiPens is because then they talked about his seasonal allergies. I'm like, that is not what EpiPens are for. EpiPens are for allergies that can cause you to go into anaphylaxis. So
like I have an EpiPen.
Yeah. My friend Rob has an EpiPen. Shellfish. He's not like deathly allergic, but he will. The throat will close and stuff. And his wife has it, and it's like shoot right through the leg if he needs it. So when they describe what happened after the sandwich, it always has sounded to me like an allergic reaction.
Yes.
That's how it has always sounded to me. Not like he was poisoned with fentanyl. Like he's not, they're not describing like fentanyl makes you go to like immediately to sleep and like you don't wake up. Like that's I mean, it's a drug used in hospitals use an EpiPen.
Yeah. You can't use an EpiPen for fentanyl.
Right. And so the sandwich thing is the fact that they're charging her with that when it's really just innuendo. Right? Isn't it just innuendo? Saying. Yeah.
There is absolutely no evidence that she poisoned him on Valentine's Day. None.
Wild.
Yeah.
Okay. So he broke out in hives and then injected himself with an EpiPen and drank a bottle of Benadryl after he ate the sandwich. So did she taint the sandwich with an allergen? Because he's taking an EpiPen and Benadryl. Those are allergy medications.
You don't break out in hives from fentanyl. I mean, unless I guess you're allergic to fentanyl.
Right.
You know.
So unless she was trying to murder him with his allergy, which was a plot line and stupid thing that we reviewed on Crime Writers a little while ago. The thing with Sarah Snook from it was on, I don't remember what it was called. It was on Peacock. Anyway, unless she was trying to murder him with his allergy, she wasn't trying to murder him. He had an allergic reaction.
Yes, but they are charging her with attempted murder.
That's wild. That to me, that is wild.
Yeah. Anyway, that's one thing that like I don't think the jury can. I don't think the jury can find her guilty of attempted murder, at least. So back to one of the other points that was made, which I still find somebody was posting on our Facebook. Here's something else I want to talk about. With our own confirmation bias, my confirmation bias, your confirmation bias. And when I say confirmation bias, I'm talking about our life experiences, the things that sort of trigger us, all this stuff, right? What we bring like what we're bringing in that is already an inherent bias in us when we're coming into this to make a decision.
We don't have those. Everyone in the world has
Okay.
them except for you and I, Mel.
No, I am telling you right now, I have confirmation bias.
Of course you do. I do too.
Yeah. When you're watching the testimony, your confirmation bias comes in. When you're listening to it, it comes in because you sometimes only hear what you want to hear, right? And I know that I'm guilty of that sometimes. We had someone post in the Facebook group that was arguing the point that we were wrong. I was wrong, I think, specifically in what I was saying.
You're wrong.
You wrong. I was wrong in what I was saying that Carmen never left drugs at the Midway house, but that is not correct. Carmen left drugs at the Midway house, the mansion.
Was that part of testimony?
Yes. And she left them in the fire pit. And the reason I bring that up is because Eric was there the day he died working. And that's where the drugs had been left. And again, another big hole in the prosecution's theory about Carmen getting fentanyl for Kouri is that they continue to have drug deals after Eric died.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric was at the Midway house where there might have been drugs hidden in the fireplace. He may have known about them. Kouri might have actually been getting those drugs for him. That might be the biggest problem here.
Tell me where the Midway house thing is? Because I'm looking at her testimony now, and she said she gave them to her in her driveway.
She gave them to her. She changed her testimony. She said it in the police interview.
Got it.
That she left them in the fire pit at the Midway house.
She changed her story about that.
And that's the problem with Carmen is she is an unreliable witness because she keeps changing her story and she has bad memory. So what I want to say is this. There is a possibility that Kouri actually got those drugs for Eric, but Eric knew she was getting those drugs.
Oh yeah, that's always been in the frame for me because he was a drug user. He was using painkillers. He didn't have a prescription anymore. And people who use, what is the story of the opioid crisis? People who have had pain.
Yes.
They use oxycodone or something, and then their doctor won't write them any more scripts because pain farms and pain pill, whatever they're called. What are those people called? The pill pushers. Those stores are all closed now. Right. And so they buy drugs from dealers, which they buy illicit street drugs, as has been.
Exactly. So my point is that Kouri, her guilty conscience or her, consciousness of guilt might actually be that, yes, she was getting those drugs for Eric, but she didn't give him those drugs. And that's the issue with this. That is enough reasonable doubt for me that Eric might have been like, he had back pain because he was a stonemason. He had bad lungs because he was a stonemason. He was known to use illicit street drugs and possibly take gummies every once in a while. I mean, it's in the text messages between Eric and Kouri. Hey, do you want to do gummies tonight? Hey, do you want to do gummies tonight? Hey, we're going to the movies. Let's take some gummies. He obviously took gummies. I don't know why the THC didn't show up in his system if he was taking gummies on that regular.
Well, that's why I have issues with the toxicology. I have questions about the toxicology.
Yeah.
So the evidence that currently but he had a prescription for him because of an injury. And I am just, I'm drawing inferences here. I'm not saying this is what happened, but it is not uncommon for people to continue trying to manage their pain after their prescription runs out. That is a storyline that we have seen again and again and again. I'm not saying for sure that's what Eric was doing. It's just one of the potential other way it happened threads that I don't think the defense did a good job laying out with any of these witnesses. Right. So,
yeah. Amy asked, did we ever find out what Red Devils were? Red Devils they used to be in the 70s and 80s. They were benzos. They later on, when Sudafed was referenced, what Kouri Wright was talking about when he was like, I don't know, I heard it was like something to do with Sudafed. Sudafed, the DXM, which is the sleepy part, as far as I understand it, of the Sudafed, is drawn out of the Sudafed, and then it is administered either in a powder or a pill form. So those are the actual Red Devils. It's the powder or the pill form. Which that's why I struggled with that argument from the judge when the judge was being so, he was really, really, really dealing in semantics for that argument, because once you get to the place where the Red Devil place where it's powder or it's a pill, those are illicit street drugs. So by definition.
Right. So one thing that I have learned, because I don't, is that some of the youngs do call just Sudafed red devils too. And
Right.
it's like I'm trying to think of like a commensurate thing that people like use a lot of different terms for, that word that people that means a lot of different things. I can't think of one right now, but I know that there are other like references like that, drug and alcohol references that mean different things to different people, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I think this is one of those things. And
Ecstasy is a perfect example because in the 90s, we called ecstasy E. Some
Mhm,
people called it X. Some
mhm.
people called, like there are so many different names for one drug, and
Yeah,
it
that's the
depends on where
opposite.
you.
That's different names for one drug rather than one name meaning different things, which is also a
Right.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So
You're pulling
y-
Nester, Rebecca.
I know, really. She's like,
Listen,
I'm of the 80s.
I will say I'll never pull a
She-
Nester because I get my jackets tailored. Just saying.
That's true. Yeah. And she was talking about
Nestor needs to get her jackets
freebasing.
tailored. Nestor's wearing somebody else's clothes. It looks like she's
Hey,
wearing
listen,
looks like she's wearing her dad's jackets.
Nestor's overwhelmed, and you can tell. They're all overwhelmed. So there, to me, I mean, we just talked about 3 or 4 different holes in the prosecution's theory. Only one of those would be reasonable doubt.
Mhm.
So there's so much, like when Carmen leaving the drugs at the midway,
Did the
Eric,
jury hear that? Did the jury hear her say that in her early? Did they hear the tape
it
where she
was
said
in
that?
her, yeah, they played that police
Okay.
interview with
Okay,
her.
just checking.
Um, so the only other major thing that happened was the junior attorney on the defense, Ramos, got up and made a motion to basically dismiss all the charges, dismiss the
Standard.
case.
Yeah.
Standard. Judge was at like, nope, sorry. And I think they probably had him do that because he was a junior and he probably needed to hear
Practice.
no.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think I've
practice.
ever I don't think I've ever watched a murder trial where the defense has not made a motion to dismiss after the prosecution's finished. That's just like that's what they do.
Mhm.
You got to swing the bat. You make 0%
So
of the shots you don't take, as they say.
exactly. Yeah. So there was a little bit of back and forth about where we're going next. And the prosecution basically was like, Bloodworth said, we're going to arrest unless they decide to bring this Norris line of questioning in. And then we obviously will need time. We'll have to get those jail calls. We'll have to do a rebuttal. So we are going to rest unless they do this. They took a break. Kouri's team and went and talked to her, see what she wants to do. And when they came back, there was this really weird moment where I always forget her name, the other defense attorney, not Nester, Wells.
Oh, the one with the little public radio voice.
Yeah, she's got such a strange voice.
She sounds like
Anyway,
Carly. She sounds like a Starly Kine from This American Life.
yeah, Judge Daddy was like, "So what are we doing?" And she's like, "We're ready to go." And he was like, "Okay, so I want to make sure that your client knows all of the issues that might come along with you guys being ready to go." And they were like, "Okay, can you just give us a minute?" And we just need 2 minutes at Lewis. Thank you guys, Lewis. Lewis and Nester and Ramos and Kouri huddled and they talked. And then she goes, "Yeah, actually the defense is going to rest." And so before, the judge had asked Bloodworth if he wanted Bloodworth to tell the jury that the prosecution was resting, and Bloodworth was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." But now that the defense is also resting, they actually have to bring the jury back in. Everyone has to say they rest, which happened. Apparently people who were inside the courtroom said that the jury looked shook, like shocked that the defense was resting.
Yeah.
I think everybody expected them to put on a case, but I will say, I know that they're taking a big risk in doing this, but I think the last 2 days of testimony really did solidify that the prosecution hasn't made their case, and
Either
that's why
did
they
or it
chose to do
didn't.
that.
We'll
Yeah, it
find out.
either did or
So
it
I want to
didn't.
ask this question for Liz. So Liz, Nester is also representing Tyler Robinson, who's
Tyler
being accused
Robinson.
of shooting Charlie Kirk, and the pretrial hearings for that are also happening like
Yes.
concurrently with this
Yep.
trial. So that
And
is,
yeah,
I don't think she expected this to be the trial that everybody was paying attention to right
right.
now. I think she expected so yeah.
And I will also say there are thousands and thousands and thousands of pages, and they have witnesses. If you look at the witnesses that they've talked to, 2 of them have been drug dealers. One of them recanted their statement. One of them has gone back and forth about what they actually did and didn't do. There are 7 hours of police interviews with just that one witness, and who isn't always telling the truth, who they then had to recall and get her to say on the stand, "No, I lied about
Several
my,
things. Yes.
drug court and all that stuff." That's just one witness. They had 43, I think O'Driscoll was like the 42nd or 43rd witness in this case.
Yeah.
There's a ton of paper, there's a ton of digital evidence. Think about the testimony of the forensic accountant and how you would have to prepare for that on both sides. This case is overwhelming. There is so much there. And then there's also Kouri and the investigation. And it's like there's just so much there. Anyone would be overwhelmed. I think that the prosecution was overwhelmed to some extent as well.
Yeah. I think that as far as the defense resting goes, they're like, we could only do harm. We can't help at this point. Or the help we could give could muddle things.
Mhm.
So they may have been planning to bring on experts or witnesses that spoke to things that the prosecution didn't even bring up. They may have had witnesses that they planned that they realized the cross-examination wouldn't go as well as it would have otherwise, given some of the rulings that the judge made during trial, or that their
Mhm.
examination wouldn't go as well.
Mhm.
I have a feeling, your gut means shit, but I do have a feeling that any witnesses that would have testified from Kouri's life
Mhm.
would have potentially hurt the defense too, because in cross-examination, all these other questions would have come up about her that they
Yep.
would have had. Most of the people would be like, yeah, that happened. Yeah, that happened. Like, they're not going to put more Kouri's mom on the stand for damn sure.
Mm-mm.
Did you
Or her brother.
anonymously? Yeah, did you anonymously send the police Kouri's book about grief and say, look at the other sweet side of this person? Like, that's embarrassing.
Yep.
The brother, obviously, they may be making more hay of the brother if they thought they could use him in some way. So there's issues there.
Yeah.
Her friends testified for the prosecution.
Mhm.
Um,
Although
so
Allie did say she was currently her friend. I mean, those
yeah,
people didn't have a choice. They had
right.
to testify. I wanna talk about this just for a second. I know that you don't wanna talk about the gummies. You're, like, sick of hearing about the gummies, everybody. I'm just said, and the lack of THC for me is such a tell given its life. It has been established, and it is fact, that Eric took gummies. It was testified to by a
Did
witness,
they
and it was
testify
in
as blood or
text.
as urine? I think
They
it's
did
blood.
not test his urine, and
That's the longevity. Blood is only a
that's
couple of
yes.
days long. It's in your urine for like a month. It's only in your blood for a day or two.
That's the thing. When they asked the retired medical examiner, they said, "What would you have done differently if you now?" And he said, "I would have tested hair follicles and I would have done urine testing."
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. We can keep talking about
I
how
didn't realize the toxicology was just a blood test when we talked about it earlier. That
there's no
changes a lot of
THC.
stuff.
There's no THC in his system. Yeah, well, they didn't have the toxicology to prove that there was THC in his system. It is a proven fact that Eric took gummies. It was proven by Allie, who referenced the argument and the jokes about Eric putting
There are
the
texts
THC
from
gummies,
Eric to Kouri saying we're going
and
to
there
take
are
gummies.
texts. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
So
So
this is the THC in the system. I am like making a total 180 on this. No, now knowing they only tested as blood, because
yes,
THC does not stay in your blood for more than a day or two.
yes,
It's
yes.
urine. Look it up. If you guys don't believe me, feel free to look it up because it's true.
This is a great question. Rumpled foreskin. I love that name. Would urine show that he used pain pills? I don't know because I'm
Let me
not a
look it up.
toxicologist. Yeah, you look it up. But I've been pushing. I know that everybody's like, I'm so sick of talking about the gummies. There was no THC in his system, but it is proven that he took gummies. So if there is no THC in his system, it means that they didn't do the right tests.
Okay, here we go for urine. Pain medications like oxycodone, hydrocodone frequently appear in urine drug screens. Most short-acting opioids are detectable for 1 to 3 days, whereas longer-acting medications like methadone or buprenorphine, which I think that there's also talk about that, can be detected for a week or more. That's urine. So in urine, the life of these drugs is way shorter than it would be for pot, which is like 30 days. But pot does not show up in. So these things probably show up in blood for an even shorter period of time. Hold on. Let me look it up. I'm looking at my handy dandy. Opioids and other pain meds are detectable in blood for 12 to 24 hours. That's it. So you can't use the toxicology as proof that he wasn't taking other things at all,
Right.
because they only
At all.
tested blood.
Yep. And no hair follicles. And hair follicles are pretty like that's the thing where they would have found everything pretty much.
I keep wondering if Kelsey Fitzsimmons' ex-fiance is going to shave his head before they can test his. I know it's follicles, but still.
Well, I'm sure he's got some hair on his balls that they can pluck off.
That's true.
That fucking
That's true.
guy. Romado says the gifts were orphan artifacts. They never showed where they came from, did they? No. That's the thing. And what pisses me off about that is it's an example of how easy it is for the state going after whatever defendant they're going after can put something in the jury's mind right off the top. And the defense can do it too. But let's keep in mind, it is the state's burden to prove this case.
Right. Defense has to prove Dick.
And if they are trying to prove that Kouri sent out these really horrible gifts the morning Eric died, they lied to the jury. I mean, they at least like misled the jury. I'll say that.
I'm not outraged by that. It happens all the time, and both sides do it.
It happens all the time. But
and closing arguments.
And again, I'm not defending Kouri here. What I am saying is it should tell everyone in this audience that if you were ever a defendant, this is how easy it is for the state to mislead a jury in favor of your guilt, whether you were guilty or not. Keep that in mind. That is my point about this whole entire case. I don't honestly care about Kouri Richins. She is a messy, fucked up individual who did some really shitty things.
And she doesn't believe in science, which is problematic.
And she doesn't believe in science. But if she is not guilty and she is found guilty based on things like this, I think that's a problem for our justice system is all I'm saying.
Well, I think that this judge was so good about talking about potentially errors that could overturn the verdict. I don't see this. I don't see her being able to, for instance, do an ineffective assistance of counsel appeal successfully, even if they didn't put on a defense.
They didn't put on a great defense, but they were diligent in fighting for their client.
Okay, so I have a comment about this one.
Yeah, me too.
Because who would have produced them? The state wouldn't produce a witness that would be favorable to Kouri's story, right? And if Kouri decided to bring in this so-called investor.
Can you say what the comment is, though? So the
comment is, I mean, she didn't say she bought them for Eric. If there was an investor, surely they would have produced them. What they're talking about is the fact that Kouri said that she was obtaining drugs for an investor or client, right?
Yep.
If you would you come in? Would you be a willing, happy witness to talk about your drug use if you are an investor or a real estate investor or client? That would be, I think, and also that person would be easily impeachable. So if you bring in a person who says, yes, she obtained them for me, then they're going to get a bunch of cross-examination questions about their drug use and their life could be ruined. So when you say they, you're talking about the defense, and the defense, I don't think they would do that anyway.
And the other thing is, if she didn't say she bought them for Eric, if there was an actual investor, Eric, we've already established that Eric grew up LDS, Mormon. And if Eric was doing any of these illicit street drugs still or taking pain meds or gummy, he was keeping it from everyone because he was worried about his reputation within the LDS community. He didn't even tell his best friend, his business partner, because Cody was a practicing Mormon. These people,
Kouri would have known. I don't buy that she wouldn't have known.
No, I believe Kouri would have known as well. My point is that Kouri and Eric were trying to hold up appearances because they were worried about what their communities would think of them if they found out certain things. Affairs, drug use. They both had affairs. It's like, you're not going to come out and say, hey, I need this for Eric. Because then what if somebody finds out, And I will just say, we're not going to debate whether vaccines or the COVID vaccine is
or whether the disease is real. Because she didn't say we don't believe in the vaccine. She said we don't believe in COVID.
We don't believe in COVID or vaccines. But no, I'm not responding to what Kouri said. I'm responding to what Rumpled Foreskin said in the chat.
Yeah, we're not talking about this in their show because it's not an issue. It's not something worth acknowledging, in my opinion.
Yes,
especially if you've had relatives die of COVID, such as I had. So we don't talk about that on the show.
Yep. Bite My Bit says, Scary, you wouldn't catch me dead handing my life to a jury of 12, much less 8. Yeah, I almost think that Kouri would have been better off doing a bench trial in this case. You know what I mean?
With this judge,
Yeah.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, he would have been so fair. And if it was a bench trial, I would be like, I wouldn't even question the verdict because I think this judge is so fair and so good. We love Judge Daddy. All right. That's pretty much all we have. They're coming back today to discuss like all the lawyering things they need to do to get ready for Monday. They're going to do hopefully their closing arguments happen on Monday. And that's all we have for Kouri Richins right now. There was a really, really big hearing yesterday, the final pretrial hearing for Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Rebecca, do you want to sort of take the audience through what happened yesterday for Kelsey?
Well,
it was a big day.
It was a big day. There was a lot of it was the final pretrial hearing. There was a bunch of like logistical stuff, as there always is. But Kelsey basically had two big wins. The judge, sort of looking at her bail conditions again, he vacated the order by that judge McCarthy Nyman, that really biased, awful judge that got pulled off the case.
Can I say one thing? I'm sorry. Yes. Let me interrupt one little thing. I saw yesterday that McCarthy Nyman didn't even allow Kelsey to sit at the defense table. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
What the fuck? Okay, sorry.
So he vacated the order that she can't have contact with her baby. Now, this doesn't mean she's going to now have contact with her baby. It means she can now apply to the probate court to change the circumstances of her custody arrangement and attempt to reunify. She said outside the courthouse yesterday that reunification was her goal. So this is a big deal because it also goes hand in hand with all of the filings we have seen both in the probate court and in this court that she has extensive proof, allegedly, of Justin's drug use, not just pot, but also hard drugs. And he's in a profession where drug use is verboten. All drug use is verboten. Yes. And she has apparently a lot of evidence on her phone of him doing things that would make him, in her estimation, an unsuitable parent. So she's going to present all that stuff in her application. Her application just got much stronger to change this arrangement. The one thing that's important to remember about Kelsey Fitzsimmons, she's never had a court appearance on her family and custody issues. She's not been able to respond or argue these issues ever
in family. Yeah. Family court.
The restraining order, all that stuff, taking the baby away, that all happened without her appearing. Like that was just Justin making it happen. And there's all these allegations about Justin's family being really connected, which I've just been sort of poo-pooing. But after sort of doing some reading yesterday, I kind of understand it better. Why people say that. So we can talk about that in a future episode when we talk about the trial. So one big win was that he vacated the order about her not being able to have contact with her baby. Now, keep in mind that order would also mean that at procedures that her baby came to, she wouldn't be allowed to go. Okay. Right. So the other thing is that he changed the conditions of her release. She can now live in her own place. Now, she sold her house in North Andover for $555,000 in November. I looked that up. It was
pay for her legal. Yeah.
Yes. The tax records are there. If you don't believe me, feel free to look it up. And her address is easy to find because it showed up in a bunch of news reports. So anyway, so he said now she can live in her own place. The only condition being that probation has to be able to do searches of the place beforehand and then possibly random searches during her living there for alcohol and weapons. And she was ebullient at this, absolutely ebullient. Yep. The other big argument that happened yesterday that I took note of was about those Justin work and drug issues that she wants to bring in. So there's an argument about whether or not they can talk about Noonan's leave status, why Noonan's on leave. But the Justin stuff, the judge is not inclined to let them bring that stuff in. And Bradel is like, he's unlikely to be called. He's a tangential witness. He was there for this. And as Bradel kept pointing out yesterday, which I really appreciated him reminding not just the judge, but the audience, because he knows there's an audience. He's no dummy. Kelsey Fitzsimmons is being charged with assault for a deadly weapon on a police officer. That is the scope of her charges.
Yes.
And so I knew when I saw those filings about Justin's work and stuff, I knew this had more to do with her other case than this case. It's sort of like a public awareness campaign, as happens. And sort of also to put more pressure on him and his family. Like this could come into the criminal sphere as well. So Yeah. So prior bad acts, he's holding off on that now. That's something that came up. And voir dire questions, he's holding off on some of that right now. So they're going to, but the defense regarding the Noonan thing, one thing that Bradel said was that they have much more information around his leave than has been released. So there's something going on there that may or may not be relevant in this trial. He is the person who shot her. He is the person who claims that she pulled a gun on him. So he is a very important figure in this case.
I saw something interesting, a graphic yesterday, and this is nothing scientific, and this is just somebody on the Twitter sphere like positing, but it was a really good point. Noonan says that Kelsey was pointing the gun at him. Now, a cop is obviously trained to use two hands on a gun. Kelsey was a cop. So this person was positing that if Kelsey was actually pointing the gun at him, her chest wasn't exposed. But if she was pointing the gun at her own head with her right hand, which she is, her chest is exposed.
But
I thought that was interesting.
It's a messy case because a lot of cops have permission to shoot suspects if they are holding guns. I mean, not that they have permission to, there's obviously practices, but cops don't typically get convicted for shooting people who are actually holding an actual gun. That is why this case was messy from the jump. Aside from all the custody issues, aside from the stuff that's happening outside of this case is honestly way more interesting than the stuff that's happening in the actual criminal trial. The criminal trial is something she needs to get through. I don't think she's going to be convicted. But I could be wrong. I get the sense it's going to be a narrow case. They're going to focus on the unreliability of Noonan, and it will be difficult to convict her because I think that there's some more stuff about Noonan that is yet to come. So we're going to learn that when we hear all that stuff at trial.
This is a really good point, Jess. Jess says, I wonder if Bradel would have had more luck just asking for Justin's time sheets so he could match up with the videos of his smoking.
But Justin's smoking has very little to nothing to do with this case.
Right.
The only thing Justin's behavior does in this case is speak to Kelsey's peace of mind, a state of mind. So Bradel, they talked a lot about mental health stuff yesterday. And the judge was like, aren't you going to raise a mental health defense, like a long-term? And Bradel sort of pointed away from that. It looked more like he was pointing to the defense they're going to raise as in the moment, how she was feeling in that moment. The police had just come to take her baby who she'd been playing with. Justin had arranged a fake rendezvous with her at the park beforehand. So she believed potentially that there was going to be some sort of better thing coming. This comes instead. And so it seems like he's going to try to narrow down. And then somebody said in the courtroom, but what about all those people standing outside that say, have shirts that say postpartum depression isn't a crime? Which was an interesting thing for that to be acknowledged in the courtroom. But it really depends on what Bradel decides to do for his defense. I don't know if the prosecution would be smart in bringing up her postpartum depression in their opening and in their evidence. But Bradel seems to want to really focus on the moment of the crime because I think he knows that's his best shot of her not getting convicted of this crime.
Yeah. And I think there inside this case, though, not with the probate issues, not with family court, all that stuff. Inside this case, there are a lot of messy details, too, because like what was Justin doing in the basement when she got shot? And then he left the scene when she got shot. Like what was happening there?
Right. But he's not the one that she's accused of a crime against in this very narrow trial.
I understand. But the point that I'm making is that the cops obviously were doing some shady shit when they came to. Yeah.
This is what I want. This is it. The defense is intimating this is not why Noonan is on leave. They're intimating that. This is a part of the chain, but him still being on leave.
You got to say the comment.
Yeah, so this person says Noonan was put on leave because he missed work because he took pain pills and didn't wake up. That is the story that the public heard about why he was put on leave. The defense intimated yesterday that they have more information about why he is on leave. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I mean, I did, but I shouldn't have interrupted you.
No, it's totally fine. Totally fine. I will say that we saw some of the videos of Justin like hitting it hard. And when I mean that, what I mean by that is that he was like taking big old rips of pot choking real fast. But the other thing I found interesting is that he obviously didn't want anyone to know that what he was doing, because every video that she has of him is him hiding somewhere, like hiding outside behind the shed in his PJs, like smoking pot. And then there's the video of him like in the little like mud room area. And he's hitting it so fast. Like I smoke pot. most of the people I know in my life smoke pot. That is not how you smoke pot. You take a hit and you let it sit, but he was like, he would take a hit and he would just be like,
smoke it like a cigarette.
So crazy to me. I'm like, that guy's trying to get high,
Why does she
real
have
hard.
hundreds of videos of him doing drugs?
Because I think that she was starting to realize that he was not going to be the greatest father in the world.
Yeah.
And I think she was starting to get evidence because she knew that was like, I think that they were heading down that path,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe she also understands the weight his parents' word would carry on his behalf. And she has had all these issues with work, leaves, depression and stuff. So she was like loading up her arsenal. But hundreds of videos, those were taken, I'm assuming, over a period of time, not just in a day. Okay.
I'm gonna add something to the stage real quick that I haven't told you about, but I want your reaction and everyone else's reaction to it, because there was a lot of hay made about this yesterday too.
They said it's her security cameras, not just her phone. So that makes sense. That makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah. So Turtle Boy was there yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people from I'll say this, a lot of people from the Kelsey Fitzsimmons camp, like, Justice for Kelsey Fitzsimmons on Facebook, are really pissed off about this. They're like, do not associate with him. He's crazy, blah, blah, blah. What are your thoughts about that? We both know Aiden.
Okay. If I were outside of this whole situation, if I were here for Kelsey Fitzsimmons and was not really involved in the Karen Reed thing, like a lot of people on that group and in her side are here for Kelsey Fitzsimmons. And because there's overlap in these two, for lack of a better word, interest groups, audiences, I'll call them audiences, even though that sounds callous. They have probably somewhat from the outside, seen a lot of drama around Aiden / Turtle Boy, his ex-girlfriend Meredith, the people who are so anti-Aiden that they call him names, the people that he calls names to. It looks really bad. And I think a lot of people are less concerned about, well, some people are concerned about him individually, but I think more people seem to be more concerned about the circus that they feel he will bring with it than, him doing something to her. Now, he met her family yesterday. He met her. He says that it was all great. I think that it's fair to say that if he writes about her, the public, at least his readership, is more likely to have a better understanding of the case and be more proactive in their support for her. I think that's all fair. I also do understand the reticence that some people might feel if they just look at the circus and they're like, Kelsey's case is straightforward. Please don't bring this circus to our town. I actually understand that sentiment. Do I think he can be helpful? Sure. Do I think he has every right to be there? 100%. Yes, he has every right to be there. But the concern is something that I at least empathize with. What I don't empathize with is people who are doing performative concern, who have a different agenda, which is to put him in jail. And those are people that I absolutely cannot get on board with, because they're anti anything he does. If he eats a sandwich, they're going to be like, sandwiches are bad. If he likes a pizza from New York, they're going to be like, no, Boston pizza, even though Boston pizza is a fucking casserole. Like Chicago pizza. So anyway, I think that that's how I feel about it. So I understand the reticence from some people. I think the reticence from other people has to do with something else that has nothing to do with Kelsey Fitzsimmons, but he also has every right to be there. So,
agreed.
And yes, it also means money. 100%. Yes.
That's the thing. I mean, it could bring some chaos to that area and muddy the waters a little bit, but I'm not inclined to say that that's necessarily a bad thing. If Aiden can bring focus and attention to this case, and he will go after and try to expose the bad guys. He will go to the ends of the earth to try to figure out what happened in this case, and he will report on it. And that's where I think, when I initially saw the reaction, like, oh, stay away from him, Kelsey, this is don't go near him, blah, 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 I was like, you guys, this is so stupid. Let him expose the corruption like he did with Karen Reed. Let him. He's interested in this case. He's not there to like mac on Kelsey, which is what a lot of other people were saying too. Like, oh,
as he said on Twitter, despite my great sexual appeal, not every woman wants to sleep with me.
And also,
I can confirm that, by the way.
I think Kelsey pretty much knows, like, he's not the greatest at relationships. I don't think she's looking for a relationship. I think she wants her kid
How could
back.
you not know that at this point?
I know, right? So I just want to say, like, yes, I understand the chaos that might come with Aiden, but that chaos brings more attention to this case sometimes. And also he's going to do the work to get to the bottom of shit. And I think that's really important here because if he can expose any of the further corruption, I mean, he's already got, with all the connections he has from the Karen Reed case and all the connections he has locally, this guy could like bring more shit to light that may not make it into the court.
Right. Well,
And,
certainly the papers aren't covering the idea of Justin's family being
yep,
the influential drivers behind this case. They're not
yep,
the papers are just doing, and public media and regular TV media, they're just doing stories about developments, just like they did with Karen Reed. And
mhm,
so I think that Kelsey, if she wants the Justin part of the story to come out in a big way, like
yes,
he is the person to do that. Let's be
yep,
real. Like he
yep,
is the person to make somebody look real bad in the public sphere and you know, maybe help the cause of her being able to get her kid back. I mean, he's a traditional guy. He's been saying, and like I don't agree with this necessarily, but he's been saying on his Twitter like you can't separate children from their mothers. They need their mothers, blah, 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 blah. And there's just like some like little patriarchal like notes there that I don't love. That being said, in this case, I happen to agree that I don't think this baby is being benefited by, I mean, I don't know any of these people, to be real. Kelsey Fitzsimmons could be a super asshole. She doesn't strike me as one, but you never
yeah.
know. That being said, from where I
Well,
sit, she needs to
they
get her
obviously,
baby back.
yeah, and she was suffering postpartum. They obviously had a messy relationship. It's obvious that there was substance abuse and fights, and maybe they weren't in the best place to get married and have a child, but regardless, the child is here.
Mhm.
And Kelsey seems like she's a pretty good mom, and they shouldn't have taken a baby away that was
And
breastfeeding.
she's put in the
Um,
work. She's put in
and
the
she's
work.
put in the
She
work.
did.
Yeah.
I get really upset when women who have postpartum issues are prosecuted with crimes that relate in some way to their postpartum issues because having postpartum depression, it is one of the most common things and it is so misunderstood because it benefits the system to have it be misunderstood. If
Right.
postpartum depression were something, Kevin's going to roll his eyes from the room. If something men got, we would know all about it. We would not be stigmatizing it in
Absolutely.
any way.
Absolutely. And it would be a good defense for, when you get into trouble because you had postpartum. I mean, and I just covered, and we talked about briefly, I covered the Clancy case on the In Between podcast, which was about postpartum
That case
psychosis.
is so sad.
So sad and so complicated. And it's going to be very difficult moving
It's been
forward
made
for
complicated. It
anyone.
actually should be very simple because even
It
her
should be.
husband doesn't want her to be prosecuted.
Right. And they have record of the system failing her.
She did all the right things.
Repeatedly. She did all the right things. Yep. But at the end of the day, she did kill her children, and she admits to that. So she's gonna have to face some kind of charges.
And she broke
But
her own neck
yeah,
too.
I mean, she's paralyzed. So like she's gonna have to face some charges. There is gonna have to be some consequence. But putting away that woman for the rest of her life is not something that I would be able to do. So
It's not something that should be
um
done. It's a deeply sad case. What she did was a horrible result of
yes.
a real illness. And some
Yep.
people will say no one should ever be forgiven for something like that. She was not her when she did that. She was a
Right.
different person who had a illness. And
And she
that's
was
what her
telling
husband
people.
says. And
Yeah.
she was telling people and she was getting help and she was doing all the right things and she was telling people she was afraid of what she would do. Like she should have had an intervention. She had the resources. This is what it shows that even like with this is what like really gets me about the postpartum thing is that even women with resources and supportive families can fall into the systemic trap of not being taken seriously and then having a
Yep.
tragedy happen that was 100% preventable.
She herself was a medical professional. She was an RN. She knew what was happening to her and she was trying to get help from her own community. And they were like, oh, here, just have another drug. Here, have 13 different drugs in the span of a couple of months, and that will solve your problems. You don't really have postpartum depression. You're just depressed. She was literally telling people there is a man inside my brain telling me to kill myself and my children. And they didn't listen to her. And even when she was even when she was she voluntarily went to an inpatient place, they sent her home. After 5 days. That's insane to me.
They just you drugged her up, like
Yeah.
drugs.
Yep.
Yeah, it
Yep.
was
Anyway,
I definitely
um,
am going to be following that case. I think that case is very important.
yeah,
And
as far as
again, this is another case where somebody who has resources is getting a lot of media attention. And it's very easy to say this happens to other people who don't get a lot of attention. But again, the cases that have a bigger lesson are helpful to everybody who's in
yep,
this situation. It can be helpful
yep,
to everybody because it can set
yep,
precedent that can be used in the future for people
yeah.
who have the same situation happen to them. So
Yeah, I know that we get some flack because, or maybe I specifically get flack because we covered Karen Reed, I've covered Pam Smart, we're covering this case now, and these are all, and Kelsey Fitzsimmons, these are all cases of white women who either have money or have access to money to fight these things. And we've talked about this before, but I want to reiterate one of the reasons why we cover these cases in depth and we really talk about corruption on the state side is because these women are the ones who get the headlines. We're able to discuss it and in a way where we can say, look, this is happening to a wealthy or a privileged white woman. Imagine what's happening in the rest of our system. You and I plan to cover more. I want to cover more about the Foss case, which we talked about in Georgia a couple weeks ago. But I disagree with the comparison saying we don't cover enough marginalized people in favor of covering these white women. The reason I'm covering Karen Reed and the reason I'm covering Kelsey Fitzsimmons and the reason I'm covering Kouri is because it is a perfect example of how much power the state has against a privileged white woman. So imagine what the state can do to somebody who is from a marginalized community who doesn't have the resources that these white women have. These white women, their cases are bringing to light the corruption because they're getting headlines and because people are going, "Oh, wait a minute. They're even doing it to the white people." You know what I mean?
like
So
us,
it's like us.
people like us. Yes.
Yes. So it's important for me. These cases are headlines. They're big cases. And we're able to really get into the minutia and like get into like a micro level of what the state is doing. What the state did in the Kouri Richins case about these gifts. I know it's not a huge deal as far as the whole case is concerned, but it is a small example of how the state can mislead a jury against a defendant. And I want you all to think about what they're doing to defendants who don't have the right lawyers to call the state out on that.
Yep.
Instead, the state is just going, here's a misleading fact for the jury, and the defense isn't doing anything to fight that.
Well, the bottom line is the other reason why, I mean, granted, there is bias in the media toward attractive white people and their crimes. The other issue here is that most defendants, especially defendants from marginalized communities, never get to trial because
Yeah.
they don't have the resources to hire a lawyer to fight through a trial. And like, I'm going to look it up, this actual
Experts.
statistic. Most cases are settled before they go to trial, and
Yeah.
people will take a plea rather than taking a risk. And so there are a lot of people in jail for either doing nothing or doing something completely different than what they actually pled to.
Yeah, absolutely. And Megan said that unfortunately some people can't find empathy until they see something happen to someone that looks like them. That is exactly the point. That's why we cover these cases.
Okay.
And
Guess what percentage of criminal cases go to trial in the United States without looking it up? Guess.
how many cases go to criminal trial?
Yes, of all criminal charges, what percentage of cases actually make it to trial?
22%.
2 to 3%.
Holy fuck. I thought I was
I
like
was going to
going
say
low.
95% before because that number stuck in my craw that don't make it to trial, but that's actually true. 95% or more are resolved through plea bargains, dismissals, and other pretrial negotiations. So it's 2 or 3 out of every 100 defendants gets a case to trial, and the trials are what the public sees.
Yes.
Like plea deals happening behind closed doors. It's a newspaper article about somebody being arrested for a crime that they may or may not have committed. And then a smaller article on page 6, 3 months later, about them pleading to something. And then everybody just
Yep.
assumes, oh, that must be what they did because they pled to it. That is
Yep.
not how it works. It's a negotiation where someone tries to mitigate their own risk.
Yep. And oftentimes, you know, they will plea out because they're like, well, I guess I'll just take a few years in jail because I can't fight this. And it's like, That happens so much. That happens so often, and we don't get to see it. Need some's said, and that's why someone like Aiden is an asset to those people to get public attention and support. Agreed. Also, I love your little doxy. And Rebecca, on that note, I have to run. I have a really hard out, and I'm getting past it right now.
Let's do it. Let's get out, and hopefully, I hear from Jimmy and get to go on his show at 11.
Yeah. So everybody that's here, if Jimmy were live right now, I would send you guys over there if you wanted to be over there. But Rebecca's going to be on around 11.
Maybe.
Rebecca, you can always post you can put a post in the YouTube post section of our page and let them know exactly what's happening. But yeah, go check out Rebecca with Auntie Deb, Jimmy, and it'll probably be a lot of fun like mine was. And we're talking to Emily C again about doing the friendly wet game possibly next week. So we'll update
hopefully
you all
I won't
on
get
that.
sick.
And hopefully you won't get sick or almost pass out on camera like you did last time. And one other thing I wanted to mention is the merch store is live and I have a discount code, which I will be releasing shortly for our members. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for the tips. Thanks for the follows. Go like this video, please. It really helps us out with the algorithm. And go watch Rebecca on Jimmy's show. Rebecca, do you have anything to add?
I hope the Jimmy show thing happens because I really love him.
It will. It will.
I got into a rabbit hole watching, like listening to all his music after you were on. It's so good.
We love you all so much. B Crumb says, I love you guys being in the community. You have to go on the Melanie, NK, and Sam. LOL. Love all those people. And we love you guys.
I started watching more of Melanie Little, and I remember I said it wasn't my cup of tea because she interrupts.
Yep.
I'm kind of, I actually, it's like, I think you just have to get used to it. And I'm now there. Yep. Like it's like a kind of media that I am not accustomed to, but I'm used to it now. So she's really smart.
She is very smart. Rob, Jimmy's show is Auntie Deb. Just look up Auntie Deb, AUNTIEDEBB. And you will find Rebecca over there around 11-ish.
Maybe. I still haven't got her from him, so I don't know.
Oh my gosh. You're going to be.
He was very communicative with you. Just going to say.
That's because I'm gay.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he's my gay brother.
It's because I'm a
lesbian. Okay. Love you.
You have a wonderful day.
Bye, everybody.